Gothix.
is a fascinating thing. We often like to think of it as something that just is. But too many people let the past determine who they are. When true greatness is determined by how one deals with the present. So if I'm helping you, I have one condition.
Yeah. No more quitting.
Time is a gift, I say. What are you gonna do with yours?
All right, everyone, welcome to the stream. My name is Gothix, obviously, because you sat through a 3-minute intro of me talking into a microphone. Today, I have a very special guest. You might know him. You might have heard of him. And if you haven't, what the hell is wrong with you? I have Eric July on the stream. You may know him as Rippaverse on YouTube. And we're going to chat a little bit. All right, so buckle up. And as you can see behind me, I decorated to commemorate this occasion. After Effects was fighting with me. But let's welcome Eric July to the stage. What's going on, Eric?
What's up? What's up? I appreciate you having me. Yeah, that background's sick. I absolutely love that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So I find it hard to believe that people don't know who you are because your name is all over the internet. You know, I'm seeing a trend on Twitter like every other day and people making hate videos about you. So it's kind of difficult to not know who you are. But in case people don't, who is Eric July? Give us a quick summary.
Who? Well, basically a guy that tried to do a little bit of everything and utilize every bit of his talent. And this is why I'm kind of in everything. So I guess my journey kind of in the more public space, obviously starting out on YouTube, I was 16, I think, when I first created my YouTube channel. And, it consisted of more doing stuff like in the hip hop scene and all that. And then that kind of graduated to me doing stuff in the metal and hardcore scene as a musician. And that's really where everything kind of took off, between me being a vocalist and doing vocal covers, but also obviously joining Fire from the Gods, and that turned into this and that turned into that. And I started entering into the commentary space of various different kind of genres and subject matters, because I was always leveraging my audience from this one thing that I built up to then do something else, and then it just kept kind of going to whereas now, at 30, I'm able to just do whatever I want. I can wake up and do a video on this subject, talk politics, I can talk comic books, I can talk whatever it is that I want to, because really that's the audience that we've kind of been building here, and be it on YouTube or everywhere else. So just depends. You ask 7 different people, all of them are going to tell you they know me from something else. It'll be, hey, I know it's for this band backwards. I know them from streaming, talking about stuff about in politics and libertarianism, or people know me from talking about comic books, and obviously most recently the Rippaverse, and that launch was a big one. So just depends on who you ask, which I would rather have it no other way. Just it's fun and it's fulfilling to be able to just wake up and create, and not have to really even limit myself. It's just a matter of what it is I want to do on that given day.
Man, that's the dream, man. I hope to get to that level at some point. And as you said, depending on who you ask, people will know you from different places. Apparently, Eric knows you from teaching him how to Dougie.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so that's another one. Laura's behind that one as well. So it's just, everybody knows me from something else.
Yeah. My husband and I, we were watching that video, and we were like, slow-mo, go slow, pause it frame by frame, and see if we can find him.
Yeah, that's crazy. A lot of folks, that's actually, that whole concept was really what my first videos were doing. And I know that song didn't come out until like 2010 or something like that. But that obviously, what's why Smooth says I ain't from Dallas, but I D-Town Boogie. That's the reason why we're there, because I was part of the group that popularized the actual dance in the 2000s, like 2005, 06, those days. And it was even crazy to see that, because really, again, that got adopted by people that aren't even from here. That was California, and those guys doing that. And it just goes to show the level of reach. And that was right when like the internet, as far as like YouTube, and you were seeing people start adopt what other people were doing in various different cultures. And that was really my first experience with that, like seeing like something that I helped popularize kind of hit it to the mainstream level. Was just crazy. It was insane.
Yeah. Did you ever think you'd be doing as much as stuff that you're doing now?
No, not even close. I mean, I very much out of college was prepared to do just general. I was just going to be a professional, you know what I mean? And whatever it was that I was doing with the College for Communication, and went and started doing more IT work on networking and like engineering and stuff. And I was very prepared to do that. I was like, all right, I'm cool. That was what it was going to be. It's just stuff just caught on. And I was not anticipating that. I don't think anybody really does. It's one of those things where it's like you kind of dip your toes in something, and you may have a passion for it, but a demand and a passion, there's 2 different things. So you can be passionate all you want, but if there's no demand for that content or that product, it doesn't really ultimately matter. At least you can't subsidize your ability to do it on that alone. So no, I didn't see myself being in a position where I'm able to just do so many different things, or just do things that I like I genuinely I enjoy. Like I work harder than I've ever had in my entire life right now, but it's fulfilling work. And to be able to do that, I think that's everybody's dream, to be able to just do what you want to do, and then be able to like get paid for it. That's what. So I never anticipated that. I was very well prepared to just be an IT professional and just ride that to the top and see what happens. And then everything else took off.
Wow. It's surprising hearing that, because I'm so used to the world suggesting that, as a Black man, it is very difficult for you to build economic wealth. And,
Yes.
affirmative action is out the window. I have no idea how you're surviving. How did you do it?
Oh yeah, it's funny how you do this thing called work, and you get all these. It has its payoff, and yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about this before, be it on my show or yours in the past, about just how I kind of, I came to be, and just being a person that used to be a leftist and going into this trajectory that I am now. You just change your sort of perspective on life, and you just surprised when you sort of that mentality of always trying to find yourself being a victim somewhere, and how just emotionally distraught it leaves you, how it gets you absolutely nowhere, and just the amount of opportunities that open up when you just drop that as a mindset. You
Mm,
start to see the world just differently once you look at it through, instead of a lens of, oh, well, I'm being kept down or I'm a victim of something. You look at it through like, okay, I can conquer, I can go out there and be great. And just so many opportunities opened up for myself there. So, again, coming from that lifestyle and then to where I'm at now, I especially don't have any sympathy for really anybody that's making some sort of excuse, and definitely playing using their racial background as some sort of crutch to go out there and be successful. Because it's yeah, I'm sure there are people that have had it harder than I had, but I certainly did not have it easy.
mm,
And I'm very well self-made, and most millionaires are, to be fair. Despite what people might believe, they're not all trust fund babies. That most millionaires in this country, they got there on their own accord. So anybody can do it. If you have good ideas, you have the ethic. I think that's the most important part. You'd be surprised what all you can accomplish, but it is a mindset thing, and a lot of these cats just don't have it. This is why being a victim is such an attractive thing. And activism, I always say it's the occupation of losers, because it's an easy thing to do. It requires nothing of you, to be able to, I don't know, go to a march and hold your fist up in the air and then post about it, and you think you've conquered, you think
mm,
you've done something when you really haven't done, even for that supposed cause that you think that you're sort of advocating. You're not doing really anything, but it's an attractive occupation for a
mm.
lot of people to feel like they're a part of something, whereas to doing what it is that guys like myself and others have done requires an actual set of legitimate accomplishment to get to where it is that you are, and that requires work. And just, I know it sounds cliche, but it's the honest to God's truth, and I say that as a business owner. Not everybody has that gene in them, or rather, they don't want to be that guy that actually works. They'd much
Right.
rather. This is where this whole finesse culture sort of kind of comes from, where people think in order to be successful, they have to try to get over on people, and they like work at something to be devalued. And that's just not true, but it is certainly a toxic trait to have. And it's not at all surprising why those types of people amount to Jack Diddley.
Yeah, I think that there is this sense of life is supposed to be easy. Adversity is something that I shouldn't ever have to deal with. And in actuality, adversity is the thing that makes you stronger. It helps you grow. It's like if you never have obstacles, you're just gonna, as you said, march on the street, put your fist up in the air, and think you're actually doing something.
No, 100%. Like that's no better way to put that. Like it is something that it's worth going through, even in just a learning experience by itself, because I certainly didn't get to where I'm at by just stumbling across things by way of accident. It was a lot of trial and certainly a lot of error. And I think most successful people can would agree to that. There's things that they tried out. Sometimes it didn't work, and they took what did maybe work, that was a part of that process, added new things, and then they really became great. And again, that's a thing that I think a lot of people are afraid to go through, because failure in itself is something that they're afraid of, which is why a lot of people don't even give it a shot or try, because they'd much rather not fail. And to me, it's something that I find intriguing. And it's like a puzzle. Like even with this, what we're doing with the Rippaverse, everything's like new. It's like
Hmm.
we're not even a year old, so some things work, some things aren't going to work, and you take from that and you try to build from it. But that does take a level of humility, and I think a lot of people just don't have that about them, and don't want to have that about them, to where they can analyze a mistake it is that they were the primary cause of, and then turn that into something that can maybe be more useful and more positive. Again, a lot of people just aren't built that way.
Yeah, no doubt. So you mentioned that you said you used to be a leftist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how entrenched as a victim were you? Were you that bad, or
Oh
was
yeah,
it like
we're
it
talking
was?
Shea shirt wearing bad. Like that was pretty bad. Like it was my college, my first year of college bad was, I was talking about campaigning for Obama. Like it was bad. It was pretty freaking bad. And I also thank it because I was an idiot, and I'll be the first one to tell you that I had no idea what it is that I'm talking about. And to be fair, a lot of young college students, they think they got the world figured out, but they don't. And really, the thing that got me into wanting to learn more and actually start to figure out what it was that I was talking about, become knowledgeable on these subject matters, was shame. You get to losing arguments to people because you're just not versed in anything. And to be fair, I think that's what a lot of young leftists are. They're going with the tide. They're going with whatever position it is the family members had, whatever position it is that maybe their friends had, of what's more so socially expedient. And a lot of these guys have no idea what it is that they're talking about. They can regurgitate sort of certain talking points, but when it comes to actually defending those positions, they have no idea what it is that they're speaking on. And I was very well. That was me. That was certainly the position it is that I had. And once I got shamed into wanting to become more knowledgeable, that's when I started reading up on the likes of the Thomas Sowells of the work, because economics was my subject that did it for me. So you read about the likes of Thomas Sowell as well as Dr. Walter E. Williams, rest in peace, and everything changed from then. And again, it was economics was the subject. It might not be the subject for others, but it certainly was the subject for me. That I learned about, and it just kind of everything else changed in better understanding it as a study of human action.
Yeah. Okay. So also voted for Obama. I wouldn't call myself a leftist, but I was definitely. There's an episode of like the Boondocks where all the black people start rounding up votes just to vote for the first black president, and it's like that's literally me. Yeah. So you went from Obama to Walter E. Williams and Thomas Sowell, but what was the turning point to actually get you to that stage?
Well, again, I remember losing vast amounts of arguments trying to call myself being politically involved when, again, I was 18, had no idea what it is that I was talking, 18, 19. And, I remember, like, for me, again, the subject was economics, but it was like I was still entrenched in this bubble where, it's everything has to be black, right? So I'm still looking at it through that lens. So I wanted to learn about black economists, right? And again, that's when I stumbled across them. And thank God I certainly did, because it sends you down a rabbit hole. So you read, like, for example, the first page of Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell, and you start to understand this concept of what scarcity is. Like, that in itself, that subject matter alone, just what scarcity is, most people don't understand it, that there will never be enough of everything for every individual. And that in itself, like when you start to wire your brain around that, and you get out of this concept of fairness and all that, things start to sort of open up. But it also sent me down a rabbit hole of just school of economic thought. So, that Sowell inevitably turns into maybe more Friedman, right? And that may, it's more Chicago economics and all that. And then that turns into the Hayeks of the world, and obviously the Mises of the world, and the Rothbards, which, I think once you go Rothbard, there's no turning around from that, going full ANCAP. And that's what it was. It was a rabbit hole. It was like, okay, this turned into this, turned into this, turned into this. And then you could take all of that and make it make sense. But that's what the great Thomas Sowell did, as well as Walter E. Williams did a phenomenal job of it. But more so, Sowell prided himself in it, and trying to break this stuff down for the common man to understand, not graphs or charts or any of that, just breaking it down for the common man to understand. And that's what it's such a, I recommend that for anybody that wants to understand what economics actually is, Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell, and it'll change your life for sure. So that's what did it to me. But it took shame to really just get me down, because you're losing arguments because you just don't know what it is that you're talking about. And again, that was before social media. A lot of these arguments were taking place in person. So, that was before the social media really like grew into the level that it is right now. It was existing. It was a thing, of course, but it wasn't to like where people we like all exist on it. And that's like the primary form of communication now. It wasn't like that back then.
Yeah. Well, I would say it took shame, but it probably took humility too. Because I've had a lot of conversations with people where clearly they don't know what the heck they're talking about, but they'll still they will double down. And it's like they have convinced themselves that they're not allowed to reconsider their position. And I think that's so dangerous.
Yeah, no, that to your point, that's exactly what you have to have. You have to have at least something in you that you start to realize that you now know that you don't know, and then that has to lead you down again a rabbit hole of wanting to learn. And so many people don't have that about them because again, it's afraid. Like imagine being led to believe that something is true, and for some people it's been like that their entire life, and then you realize that you can't defend it because there's no defense for it. Really, there's no honest defense for other than groupthink. That's it. That's everybody else believes it. That's really all that you have to go on. But when it comes to something of merit, when it comes to something that's identifiable, there's really nothing there. And you're talking about shattering people's worldview. And again, you have to have a bit of humility to understand that possibly you're wrong. And that's for a lot of people. They just simply do not have that, especially in the political political realm, because it's socially expedient to just go. I mean, COVID showed us that, it's just socially expedient for some people that they feel like they just will go along with it just because they don't want that. Maybe they don't want to have to admit that they may have been duped. People don't want to accept that.
Yeah, man. Oof. Yeah, you're dropping bars right now. All right, so let's talk about Rippaverse. So you, as you mentioned, you didn't have plans to do all the things that you're doing now. So how did that come about?
Well, obviously being a comic book lifer, looking at the stage of comics, even people that don't know comic books know that it's in a bad state. And it's just a lot of nonsense. It's yeah, we can talk about the quote unquote woke stuff. That's a huge part of it. There's other issues that plague the industry as well, economic problems, continuity issues, all that stuff. It got to a point, I'm a long time customer of this stuff, and definitely at this age where I was an adult, so I could actually afford it more than what I could when I was young to actually go out there to the comic book shop and actually buy this stuff. So, I got a pull list and I'm spending multiple hundreds of dollars on this product, and it just hit me like this is a colossal waste of my time and money because these guys aren't doing material with me in mind. Like, they don't care. They're not writing this stuff for me. They're not creating this stuff with me in mind. In fact, you can make the argument that it's in spite of folks like myself that they do the content it is that they or create the content it is that they create. So, I've griped. People that watch me on YouTube know I spent years griping about this stuff, and I figured definitely me being in the position, a long-time customer, also having the finances to be able to make something happen, it was never going to be a better time than now. And I figured let's be a part of the solution instead of simply just griping about the problem, because I do believe God put me on this earth to create. And I think that's obvious because everything that I've done that people know me for the most, whether it be with the band stuff or what it is that we're doing now, has been when I'm creating, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean I can't commentate, but being a creator, I think, is where I'm supposed to be. So I took that leap of faith, spent almost $300,000 to get this bad boy off the ground, and the audience responded in the way that they did, and I'm so appreciative of them. And obviously on campaign 2 with ISOM too, we're off to a great start. It looks like this is going to be yet another multi-million-dollar campaign. So it came from me looking at these issues that plague this industry, and I just wanted to again be a part of the solution, surrounding myself with a team of just awesome people that are absolute rock stars, and that's how we got in the position it is that we got in.
That is amazing. I'm so happy for you guys. If you want to pre-order ISOM 2, I dropped the link in the chat. It's pinned up top. Go support Rippa. All right. I already read ISOM 1. Amazing. So good. Art is like beautiful. So now, you know what I find interesting is, especially these last couple of years, I've been hearing a lot of this weird narrative, as I said earlier, about like how it's difficult for Black people to succeed in America and all this nonsense. And then here you are, a Black man, creates your own comic book company, and a lot of your detractors are the same people that would probably have a BLM sign on their Instagram profile. What is that?
Oh yeah, I would say that's like number one. I mean, all these people who had insisted that when folks like myself griped, and others griped about like certain characters being goofy, and because we didn't like race swaps in various forms of media, they would say that, well, it's because you're either racist or misogynistic or whatever other buzz terms that they wanted to throw out there. And then they turned around and we presented ISOM obviously as the character and me being the creator of him, and all that stuff went out the window. I've been called more names doing the most apolitical thing that I've ever done, I think, in creating a comic book than I have doing anything else. It's kind of crazy. And again, it's coming from these fist in the air pro-black, supposed pro-blacks, leftists that are generally like the ones leading the charge on these hate campaigns against me. And that goes to show that, you know, first of all, I'd always been right about the things that I had said about this ilk. Like they don't actually care about these different things. It's just that those are more so talking points, because really the Rippaverse, what it does, and just by sheer existence and the success, you know, and I guess that's why they're so angry, because it goes back to the shattering of the worldview. So you have all these people that you had painted as racist, that are now supporting a brand new character, not a derivative of another, right? A brand new character that just happens to be black, as well as the creator that happens to be black. And so all those people that you would call them racist the entire time rallied behind that. And so their entire worldview was like, oh my God, like this is not supposed to happen. So they're trying to figure out what the nefarious thing is that's going on, because they don't want to believe that the folks that they had been talking down on for so long weren't the people that they pretended that they actually were, or rather the people that they needed them to be in order for their little stupid arguments to be remotely valid. So, you know, this has been a wonderful kind of almost thought experiment, social experiment, to see these types immediately get disgusting and get nasty because they saw myself and us just create this is the least political thing that I've done. Like, I had my edgy takes, my or not edgy, more hot takes. Let's say that, you know, you said, and you might be right, but you're expecting there's going to be a level of pushback because they're not ready for that kind of talk. This is the least political thing that I've done. And these people have had some of the most foul stuff to probably say about me than anything else it is that I've ever said before. But again, it just goes to show that we were certainly right all along.
Yeah, and if anything, I would embrace all of the hate, because I think of it like the Streisand effect. They're just sending you more publicity. So it's like, whatever. You say monetize your haters, I'm with it. I love it.
Yeah.
So now I saw an article come out recently about Rippaverse. I think it was from the Daily Wire. And they were talking about how you were an anti-woke comic book company, and you guys came out and said, no, we've never claimed to be anti-woke. Explain that.
Yeah, because the way that I look at the term in terms of how they use it, and I guess that's certainly important that we need to define that. I think they use it in a way like this comic book company was created in spite of them. So this is why if someone said that it wasn't woke, then yeah, they'd be correct 100%. But when I think of the term anti, I'm thinking that they're using it, and maybe they're not, but it sounds like they're using it in a way like, we created this comic book company despite other folks, and that's not why we did it. Like leftists, for example, getting mad at the Rippaverse, we didn't set out to do that. That's just a side effect. That just happened to happen. I didn't set out to make these guys angry. I wouldn't spend this much money just to own libs. Like this is not my thing. Not for this. Like there's other things that I do that it makes more sense in that medium. But for this comic book stuff, this is the least, again, political thing that I've done. So I generally do correct them when people do say that, because that's not what I've set out to do. And it's just more about accuracy. I did not create this comic book company to spite leftists. They just see it as an attack on them because we're not catering to these weirdos, and we're not going to do that. We just want to create good material. We just want to entertain people. And I'm not interested in beating the audience over the head with certain points and all that. That's not what I'm doing this for. I just want to create good material that really anybody can pick up and digest, and that's what it's about. But you know, I'm not doing it in spite of them.
Yeah, that seems like that's like a hobby, and I don't have the patience for that. I'm going to create an entire business just to antagonize the left. That doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. Interesting. So, and you know what the thing is that anti-woke, you don't even have to, like, let's say for the sake of the argument, if someone was anti-woke, all you would have to do is just make great content. Because I look at wokeness as something that's ugly, and your comic isn't. It's just art, and it's good.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, depending on how they're defining it, you know, I think that's that's important because yeah, I mean, really just being in existence is at least to the contrary to them and what it is that they do, because you know a lot of the, I would argue, the bad traits that plague these definitely are in the entertainment in the West. It comes from a point of spite, you know what I mean, and it comes from a place of envy and anger and just being all around aggressive to people that they see as their social political enemies. And really, for the Rippaverse, we just don't do that. It's just, that's not everybody leaves that stuff at the door. There's an appropriate time to, like, you know, like I said, I can do a YouTube video and I can monetize these freaks, and that's not going to be any problem. It's a time and place, but for the comic books, that's not really what it is that I'm trying to do, because I do think that's a medium where people, at least for what I would love for the Rippaverse to be, is a place where people get to escape and, you know, get away from a lot of that nonsense. That should be their place, that they're able to do that. It doesn't mean they completely ignore what's happening in the real world. That's not what I'm saying, but it's more so that that's just not what it is, the attempt here. So yeah, but existing is they're going to see it as a threat either way that it goes, just because they can't control it, number one, and then we're not playing by their rules. And I think that's what makes them more angry than anything else, because a lot of those tactics that these wokesters would use on the entire industry, they can't really use that on us. So the cancellation attempts and all that stuff is just ineffective. So, you know, you just ramming your head against the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. So I played a little animated short of ISOM at the beginning of the stream. So talk to me a little bit about what your plans are for Rippaverse in the long term. Are you going to expand beyond comic books? What are you doing?
Yeah, that's a reality, right? I think as an entertainment asset sees more level of success, you're going to start to see it in other places and other things that have to be considered, definitely, if the goal is to certainly make money. So whether it be from the merchandise on up, there are things that you have to consider. And animation was one of those things where it was a filler. It was like, what is the audience going to do? How are they going to respond to this? And what are they going to demand of us? And, you know, we got the response that we kind of expected, but it really does kind of accelerate things to work on more animation, because this is something it is that these people want. And this is something that it is that people would love to, like, maybe that aren't as familiar with comic books. It's a more digestible medium. So we just have to be creative with monetization of it all, and making sure that we do this in a different way. But at the end of the day, it is still about the comic. So even if for those of you that read ISOM 1, you see a lot of even the animated trailer are direct scenes from ISOM 1. You know what I mean? Some of them are, as well as ISOM 2, which you'll read, are direct scenes. You know, this is stuff that actually happened because we want to do a great job of adapting what's in the books first. I don't think you have to sacrifice that stuff for the sake of growing anywhere else. We want to start with the comic books. We want to stay about the comic books, but absolutely we want to expand into other aspects. And, you know, we also have to be honest with ourselves, because the way that we are in our setup will always be, in that me being a sole owner, and there's no investment bankers, there's no people that are you know, kind of pulling the strings, or that means they're also not funding it either. So the entire company is really subsidized through selling of product. That's just what it is. Like, the more we profit, the more creative things that we're able to do, which is why I'm telling people that the dollar goes a lot longer than what they initially may expect, because of what all we have to repurpose those funds that we get in terms of profit to grow the company. It's not like I'm pocketing it and buying random things. It's not what happens. It's, hey, we make sure that we expand in other aspects. So that's what we want to do. We just have to be very, very smart in everything, especially out of comics, because comics are a little more, it's not easy, but it's a little more straightforward in terms of we can sell the physical copy of the comic or the merchandise and stuff. But when you start entering like animation and film, it gets a little interesting. So we have to find creative ways to monetize that. But I absolutely want to grow wherever the audience will allow us to.
That's so exciting. So guys, go share the link. Visit Rippaverse. Okay, buy something because
Please,
he needs to grow his stuff. All
please.
right. um. So okay. So you're doing a lot of projects. What about backwards? You guys still making music?
Oh yeah, actually, we were supposed to shoot a music video. I think it was the first week of June, so last month. But it was a family emergency that happened with one of the members, and so we didn't end up shooting it. So we are going to shoot it, however, next month. I think like literally a month from today.
Mm.
We're going to be shooting the next a couple of music videos actually that we're going to be shooting. So a lot of people have asked about backwards. They're like, where is it? When is it going to get here? It's a great time to drop some of the music. We can even tie some of that stuff into the Rippaverse, all that stuff. So we're sitting on probably like we're sitting on a double album worth of music, like, and that's been done over the last couple of years, few years actually now. So we are going to shoot 2 new music videos to some songs to get everybody kind of acclimated to us being back and not playing around anymore. And I can't wait for people to see it because we're really taking it to the next level with this stuff. So it's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, that's so exciting. Yeah, when I first heard your music, I'm like, this is actually really good. Cause I landed on your YouTube first, and I'm like, all right, political culture commentator, and then I'm listening to it. I'm like, no, this is nice. I like
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. Cause I try to I see other creators, not like, I'm not trying to insult them or whatever, but like when they try to fuse the two together, it
It
doesn't
can be
quite.
kind of corny, yeah,
It's
for sure.
kind of corny, and
Yeah.
you do a really great job.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, backwards is we all came from successful music projects before we had formed backwards in like mid 2010s, right? And I come from Fire from the Gods, obviously that's where everybody knew me from, but the other guys that come from like bands like the Bad Chapter and other bands that had done some things. And so we got musicians first and foremost. Like Alex, people know as the vocalist, other vocalists, most sort of clean vocalist. Like he's just an incredible, he's a multi instrumentalist and just has an absolutely crazy voice. So we got guys that are good at what it is that they're doing. So we knew that was what we had to do first. It's the same thing with River, same kind of idea. It's like just being an alternative really isn't good enough. I have to be good at it. So we needed to make sure that like we surrounded ourselves with the best artists that we could and put out something that was comparable to whatever the main guys were putting out. And that's what we did with Backwards as well. It was comparable. It was really well polished. The music videos looked great. And we're actually good at what it is that we do. So that was very, very important that, we had talent within this, within the group.
Okay, nice. So can I ask, if you, aside from backwards, what type of music do you like listening to?
Oh man, I would say, yeah, pretty much daily. It's gonna be like metal, like that's pretty much almost exclusively. There'll be some old school stuff that I'll listen to here and there when I'm in like obviously like not the era that I grew up in the '90s R&B and all that stuff. When I'm just going on a kick or something. But usually it's just like straight metal, hardcore. I'll go into that as well, but usually that's all I'm listening to. So anything floating around those genres. Sometimes I go on everybody knows I love Pantera. I go on my little Pantera kicks. But I'm a metalcore guy, so whatever's that stuff from those there definitely like kind of prime 2010s era metalcore stuff. I'm still jamming all of that stuff as well. So that's really predominantly what it is that I listen to. I go old school with some of the R&B stuff as well, but I listen to a little bit of everything. But if I had to put it on one genre, definitely these days, like when I'm driving to whatever it is that I'm doing, it's metal. It's
Yeah.
pure metal.
I have to agree with you. I think I'm right alongside there with you in terms of the music genre. And if I want to listen to rap or hip hop, I find myself going back into like the 90s.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just it's still degenerate, but
Yeah,
it's less degenerate
less
than what
degenerate
we
than
have
this one.
now.
Yeah, that's for sure. In comparison, and there was at least a skill set that was to it, you know what I mean? Like, but they're not dropping those albums anymore. Like, you can't get anything comparable to like Lauryn Hill's Miseducation album. Like, you're not getting another one of those probably ever. And and I've long accepted that, which is why I kind of geared into more of the genres over the years that I gravitate towards as opposed to that stuff. Because yeah, they just not putting that type of stuff out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So you alluded to this a little bit earlier. Now I want to get really deep.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Gonna get super deep right now.
yeah. Let's do it.
All right. You mentioned God.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is Eric July's belief in God?
Well, oh yeah. Well, I'm a Christian. I think folks picked up on that with definitely the last track on the album for Backwards called "Set Us Free." I mean, which really it really kind of brought everything home as to why it is that we do what it is that we do. You know what I mean? So, I grew up in the church. There's no deviating kind of from that. It's just more so having a better understanding of it, especially when it comes to liberty. You know what I mean? And these often these concepts of what we believe liberty to be are obviously just right in line with the gospel. So, it's for me that's an important aspect of it and why I do what it is that I do. Even if I don't maybe make it as obvious, I think, as some people would love for me to be. But you hear what it is that I say. Definitely, if you listen to backwards lyrics, it's pretty
Mm-hmm.
open and apparent, like kind of where it is that we come from, and that certainly hasn't changed.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, it's so interesting to me because it doesn't happen anymore, but there was a time when I was first saved and I started mentioning God here and there on this channel. I would start to get comments from people that would say, "I'm unsubscribing. I'm going to go watch Rippa because he's not talking about God." And then I watched one of your streams and you had briefly mentioned something. I'm like, I feel like he's a Christian.
Yeah, yeah,
And so it's so interesting to me that people will look at you and not get that, and it's weird. I don't know. Maybe
yeah.
it's because
I
you're very
think so.
aggressive though.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's the rough around the edges part. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That has people kind of that may be confused on it, because I don't necessarily like shy away from that. Not in any conversation, which is when somebody asked me, it's like, yeah, this is what I am, and like I say, I make it pretty apparent in some of the things that I create. Certainly as well, kind of where my level of influence is there, especially when I'm talking about, like, again, liberty a lot, because I do believe a lot of that stems from what we know to be the gospel. Not saying that everybody that's believes in liberty as a concept is, let's say, a Christian, but certainly that's where the concept is more so popularized. You look at concepts like the golden rule and all of that good stuff. So I do think that it's more of the rough around the edges. I think the way
Hmm.
it's packaged, I think, or I am, may get people that idea. But certainly folks that listen to me, it ain't a secret. It ain't a
Yeah.
secret at all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So is there so you grew up in the church.
Oh yeah.
Is there a testimony involved? Because you mentioned you were a leftist, and I find that very hard to believe you were a leftist and a Christian.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I mean, so I very well was that. It's just more so of not understanding. Like, I mean, you can make the argument that one didn't even understand the gospel to that level of degree. Definitely in the concept of what, like, free will actually is, and I think that's where people get tripped up on. Definitely not only on the gospel, but what liberty is about. Because I think all these supposed good people and people that like to be good or think of themselves as good, other Christians as well, have, for whatever reason, no problem using, like, something like as horrific as the state to force their sort of beliefs on other people, or more so forced them to be, like, charitable, and force them to do this and force them to do that, when that's not what anybody has certainly called for. But yeah, I still grew up in the church, and I will at least be fair to my family members, for the most part, were leftists. It wasn't anything that we kind of prioritized for the most part to discuss. Definitely in the church, it wasn't anything. Thankfully, my folks kind of stayed away from those elements, though. I knew what my mother was and all that, but and she's deviated kind of a lot from what she certainly believed back in the gap politically. But as far as the politics in combination with the church, it was never really, like, the real world politics. It was never really a point of contention. If anything, it was contrary to it. If you actually listen to what the preacher was saying, a sermon, you start to realize that, wait a minute, like, we're doing one thing, or rather, the gospel is telling us to do another one thing, and we're doing a complete other. But that's certainly where my mind was, and I better understood it, obviously becoming more of an adult and better understanding what this was, what being saved actually means, what it is that, as far as what you're and what it is you're advocating. Sorry, as my email is going off, what it is you're advocating, what that actually means. So for me, it was a time of growth, but also it was more of me kind of stumbling across it myself as opposed to me being lectured to death. Again, I had to make those critical errors, and once I made them and realized them of my ways, let's say that as far as the errors, it's not that what it is that I was taught was incorrect. It was more of extending that to the logical conclusion, if that makes sense, is what it was that ended up happening, and to why it's like, well, okay, that's why he says do this or why he says do that, and this is a better way to have that, let's say, idea manifest itself. So that's more so what it was for me.
That's very interesting. Okay, so there wasn't like because I know some people, they were total degenerates, and then they
No,
came to
I
Christ.
would say that I did do degenerate things because I grew up banging, so for sure.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
yeah. So it was. Let's make no mistake. I had done degenerate things. You know what I mean? And like I said, it's just one of those things where, as an adult, like more so coming to the realization of the fact that it was I was a degenerate, doing things that were diametrically opposed to even my own core beliefs, but certainly diametrically opposed to what it is that I claim to be an advocate of. So I was committing stupid acts of violence against folks in my neighborhood, on terrorize your own neighborhood, all because people rock different colors or people are from a different side of the neighborhood. Like, that's degeneracy probably in the highest form, certainly as a male. But I participated in all of that nonsense, and obviously I don't do it anymore. And I think I possess the knowledge base to help speak against it as much as I do, because it was foolery. It certainly was foolery. So I wouldn't say that I didn't have my share of degeneracy. I absolutely did.
Yeah. Now, so now when you made that transition, do you still have a lot of the same friends? Because I know for me, it was sort of like, I'm still going through it right now, where some friends are like, what the heck? Like, they don't know what to make of this. So did you lose some of like your degenerate friends, or did they
Oh,
come
well,
over?
yeah. I mean, that's just a natural thing I think that people are going to go through. I think the guys that were my closest ones, like my buddy Dave, who he grew with me. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, it was more, we both did degenerate stuff, and the best man in my wedding, and he's not on that anymore. So you had guys like him, but it weren't many of them. Most of the guys that I was running with, some of them got out of that stuff, for sure, but a lot of them, it's not for them to necessarily understand. And I think that's a thing that, when you're going through, especially your 20s, man, these young folk have to understand that you got to cut folk off. You know what I mean? Like, it's just what it is, and it ain't worth even trying to keep them around, and it's certainly not worth trying to appeal or impress them. So who cares? You know what I mean? Because oftentimes, definitely, if you built what supposedly was some friendship when you were in a completely different mind state, more than likely y'all are going to be culturally incompatible. And
Right.
that's more so what it was. And I didn't really get a whole lot of problems out of that. I mean, I go still get my hair cut in South Dallas. So I still go out there. I'll run into people that had seen me around. I joke about this all the time, but it's not a joke. It's true. Where I go and I'll see someone, they'll run into me, they'll recognize my face, even though I look a little different from what I did back then. They're like, Ripper, like, because that's what people knew me as, obviously. And they're like, hey, where you been, yada yada. You got people that think I've been in prison. People think I went to jail because I haven't been around. I don't run the block anymore. And I'm like, nah, I'm just not running with y'all fools anymore. That's it. But I'm good. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just, you gotta know when to do that. People grow apart. It's something that ends up happening. But certainly when it's, I would say it should be an expectation, definitely, if the guys you were running with, gals you were running with, were when you were doing degenerate stuff. If they're still on that, oftentimes you're going to be culturally incompatible, and you got to know when the hey, it's just, we ain't the same, and cut them off.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it says that in the Bible, bad company ruins good morals.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, if you're going to still run with the same group, there's no growth in that. You got to cut ties.
Yep, you got to.
Yeah, man.
It's I guess it's difficult for some people because they look at it like, well, I've been knowing this person all my life, or it's the peer pressure element, like, oh, what are they going to say to me? I think there's a lot of folks that certainly grew up like I did. That's more so what it is, where you recognize what you're doing is stupid, but you're like, I don't want these people. No, I'm still cool, still with this. Like, nah, bro, this is dumb, and they might not understand it. So you got to do what you got to do, and you got to cut them off.
Amen. All right, guys, if you have a question for Rippa about anything that we've talked about today, please leave it in the chat. Now is your time. We're almost at an hour, okay? So I want to be respectful of Rippa's time, so ask your questions. So yeah, what else you got going on aside from, or are you just like hammering the Rippaverse thing? Because you seem very busy.
That's pretty much what it is. Just catching up to the demand is a big part of what we need to do. And I want to get to a point sooner than later to where we're putting out stuff more frequently. You know, we've already announced Alpha Core's book that will be next with Chuck Dixon and the Saska sisters and their book going into the winter with Yaira. But we want to have a massive 2024. So in order to do that, we're going to have to get to work right now. So that's what it is that we're doing. We're scouting talent. I'm writing ISOM 3 right before I came on here. Actually, that's what I was doing. I was writing ISOM 3 so we can close out that arc. So that's really waking up Rippaverse, going to sleep Rippaverse is really all that I'm really focusing on right now. Not all, but that's a primary thing. And like I said, we just still have to catch up to our demand. We got legitimized with ISOM 2 being as successful as it is. So now again, it's about catching up to our demand.
Gotcha. All right, let me I'm just starring a bunch of questions right now because you got a lot of questions, and you have a lot of Rippaverse staff in the chat.
Oh, shout out. Yeah, I do see Marcos there. Shout out Sheets there.
Let's get to some of these. Voice of the People, thank you so much for the 5. Awesome job, Eric. I'll be grabbing ISOM number 2 this weekend. Here's one. When will you release the Rippa sketches?
Everybody keeps talking about that because I talk about how obviously I'm not the best drawer of the world, but I sketched out ISOM's original design for Marcos, who's my concept artist, to actually make it presentable to like Cliff Richards and other artists that would draw ISOM, and it's not that good. So a lot of people are like, "Yeah, I need to release that." I'm like, "Yeah, probably not."
I want to see it. I'm voting for that. Can we get that? Come on, I'm putting the pressure right now. That sounds good.
Oh, it's terrible, man. It got the point across. It got the point across, and thankfully, an actual artist like Marcos, Marcos was able to do something with it and make it presentable and put ISOM in the suit. But yeah, I sketched ISOM's original suit, and it was terrible.
Oh man. Okay, all right. Here's next one from Ruin Leon. Where are the hoodies?
Oh, Jesus, Leon, get the hoodies. I promise we'll go into the winter. We'll go into the winter, maybe late fall, maybe, but it has to get cool. Right now, I can't even conceptualize selling hoodies because it's 100 and something degrees outside. Right now, I'm in Texas, so we'll get there maybe very soon. Maybe fall. Once it start getting cooler in certain pockets of the country, we'll do the hoodies. He says I'm cold now, so
you probably have low iron. Tanner says, when will Eric do the Dougie again?
Last time I did that, I think it was at my wedding. Peer pressure to do it at my wedding, but yeah, those days are behind me, man.
Is there a video of that?
Of the wedding, yes, for sure that exists. I don't know who has
Dougie.
Somebody has it, but it for sure is a thing. I know people were recording that day, so it's for sure a thing. Somebody's got it.
All right, you can email it to me if you're out there, whoever that is. We got one here. Rippa, what's the main comic that inspired you to create ISOM?
It's hard to say a main comic because I tried to go, at least with ISOM, with that character, I went into it with a mindset of like complete originality. So it was like I wanted a level of familiarity with like recognizable, like his suit kind of feels like it's more sleek, it's more simplified, and that's all by design. But as people start to learn more about him, it's coming out of left field as far as where he's coming from and why he's able to do the things it is that he's able to do. So it wasn't necessarily one comic per se that I was inspired by, but I will at least say that obviously the concept of a universe with expansive characters with their own titles, which is what Marvel and DC is obviously notorious. That's what they did. That's what made them cool to me. And there's inspiration there. It's just that's a big point of emphasis for us as you read through the Rippaverse Code of Ethics.
All right. Rippa, are you considering voice actors for anything, and can the community try out?
Potentially. Maybe I've never thought about that, but yeah, well, there'll be opportunities going into the future. Obviously, we did the voice act. We have voice acting for the upcoming, the recently released Rippaverse Studios animation, which we had our team kind of tag team on that. I did Isom's voice, Gerard did Cedric's voice, and so yeah, I would imagine if we keep doing that, which we've already promised you guys to do some more animated shorts at minimum, um, we can do stuff like that. We'll see.
Okay. All right. Eric, how surprised were you with how quickly Rippaverse seemed to just explode onto the comic book scene? Did that cause you to change your approach?
Well, I was completely surprised, and absolutely, it caused everything to change. Changed my life like in an instant because I went going into it like with a decent demand, right? I remember us having to account for a certain number of books, with like 12,000 books, and then we breezed right through that. So it's like it changed everything because it showed how crazy the demand was, and I was playing catch. We're still playing catch almost a year after the fact, and we're still playing catch up to that demand. So I was completely surprised. I did expect to see some level of success, but $3.7 million. No, of course I didn't expect to see anything like that. So it did cause us to change. It accelerated a lot while also it kind of pushed stuff back at the same time because we had to catch up. We had to play a lot of catch up. I had to get a new warehouse. We had to do all of that stuff, that logistical stuff that comes with really now. You go from it thinking that you may make a little money to being a multi-million-dollar publisher and distributor. So that changed in an instant. Everything changed very, very quickly. So we had to play catch up.
Mm. Yeah, I can only imagine because when that campaign dropped, I'm like, oh wow, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, it was nuts. I didn't expect anything like that.
That's a good problem to have, if
Yeah.
we can even call it a problem. We have some super chats over on the Rumble side. I'm going to read them really quick. Canon Hotep says, Salute, can't wait to get my copy of ISOM 2. And then Canon also says, when Rippaverse dropped the first issue of ISOM, I felt proud, even though I had nothing to do with it. Eric is a legend.
Shout out to Kenny Hotel, man. I see him. He does the videos, man. He's good people.
The Joseph Santos says, does Rippa believe it'd be possible these days to write stories that cannot generally be oversimplified as a leftist or rightist stories?
Well, I think that there are universal truths to the world that will, of course, lend itself more so to people that maybe lean one way. And I think that's what people they it's like leftists liking even the concept of a lot of the superheroes, and why a lot of them suck right now was because they write out what makes them good. And so everybody of all political lands, it's unfortunately they don't extend things to the logical conclusion. But when you think of like the concept of a general superhero and that they're taking power into their own hands, especially the more vigilante types, which is a lot of them these days, that more lends itself towards people that are, more liberty minded, let's say that. And a lot of the universal truths, what is right, what is wrong, what is just, are going to lend itself to the more liberty minded people. I will say that much, but I don't oversimplify it. I think it now everybody looks at it through that lens, so it'll be very difficult to do. But you also have to understand, even if we're going based on the old stories, like a lot of that stuff, if you produced it now, people would say it was quote unquote right wing. They would. Like all those Captain America stories. That's exactly what they would. They would claim that to be, or Batman for that matter, or any of those stories, that for the most part. But that's because they don't extend it to the logical conclusion. So the oversimplification, I don't know. I don't think that's you're gonna get away from people trying to place it in a box. I think those days are behind us. I'm gonna be completely honest.
Okay, all right. We got one here from Creative Pop. How many IPs are you gonna have announced by the time ISOM's ill-advised arc ends? Because the first one had about 3 or 4.
That's we'll see. Because a lot of that stuff is determined by the audience. So like Yaira, obviously we put a little bit of emphasis on that character and everybody wants to know more about her. So we already got a book coming with her. By the time the ill-advised arc ends with ISOM 3, you will have 2 more books at minimum that aren't even ISOM's book. So those are going to have little branching points as well. So it's hard to say. It's certainly hard to say, and it's determined by the audience. A lot of this stuff you can't really predict. You can go into it with the idea that this character is going to be a hit, and they're not a hit. And then as you can go into it with the idea, hey, this is just a little side character, I plan to do a little something, and then everybody's demanding that they want to know more about it. So it just really depends on how the audience reception certainly is, and we're able to dictate our direction based on that demand.
All right. We got a couple left. Are you stressed for time?
No, let's do it.
All right, cool. We have one here. Will Eric hold an international contest sometime in the future? Sad I can't participate due to the current contest being U.S. only.
Well, the funky, yeah, I would say that it inevitably come, and even if you got something that's, I would say don't not share it, because it's not to say that we won't hire people that are, let's say, international. Obviously, we have Will Conrad, we have Cliff. Cliff is Brazilian, you know what I mean? So, it's we have international people, but with contests, it's a legal issue. So blame the government more so than anything else. It's more of it gets ugly, man. When you start looking into, I got some of the best lawyers in the world, and they were like, look, just with submissions, just stay away from it. Like let's just not do that. That does not mean that we won't bring people on. And I'm not saying that you should not do fan art and not like share it all over social media and tag us, because we'll still see it. And if you are that good, trust me, you'll be on our radar. It's not about not hiring people. It's just for a contest. It's just legal nonsense.
All right, cool. There was one here. Chato Jackson is in the chat from Uncle Tom. If you never seen that film, he wants to know
yeah.
What part
I
of
saw your
Texas you
recent
in?
interview with him.
Yeah. What
Shout
part of
out.
Texas?
So what part of Texas? I'm in Dallas too. So we're in. I'm right north of Dallas.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
I can never. Texas is so damn big. Like, I'm not used to it. I'm like, it's one of those places.
Yeah, right north of Dallas. Yeah.
Oh man. Let me see. Rippa, when are you going to announce the artist for your 2 next books?
Well, I have to do it by the 31st. I kind of set myself up. The story behind that is I forgot that I had did a there's a, actually it's the back cover. The inside back cover has has the names of the artists on it for the upcoming 2 books. So I gotta at least announce them for ISOM 2, that is. So I have to at least announce them by fulfillment. So it'll be very, 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 so it'll be this month. It literally has to be this month.
Okay. All right. Larry wants to know, do you have any plans to have deep philosophical stories in Rippaverse, stories that touch on truths like liberty and even humanity? I feel like it already is.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. If you read ISOM 1, you deal with a lot of, definitely when you start looking at it, like him being flawed, Avery, that is, you really start to get into some of that. So for sure, there's a lot of room for that stuff.
Yeah. All right, and we got one here. I like this one. If you could give one piece of advice to your past self, what would it be?
Stop being stupid. I think I think to me, honestly, that's the number one thing. Because I did look, my trajectory, it could have went either way. I hate to get dark, but that's the honest to God's truth. Like when I was in the heat of like doing all the dumb stuff that I was doing, like it could have went any other way. It could have been dead in jail, or it could have been where it's at right now. I had God-given abilities that I was only halfway using it, and some of them I was using to do the wrong things as far as my gifts. So stop being stupid, because that easily could have been it could have went the other way, and then you're dealing with what could have been and what would have been. You know what I mean? So for sure, just stop being stupid.
Yeah, I think you should get that as like a bumper sticker or some type of merch. Just stop being a dumbass.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
Amazing. Oh, this one too. Yeah, don't be stupid. Don't smoke crack is actually good advice.
Those will get you very far in life if you heed to those, I promise.
Oh, man. All right, we got one more. I'm going to do one more over on Rumble from Contemporary Copendium. Hey, Eric, what are the steps to creating your own comic? Was it the story first, the character creation design second, or was it random bits that eventually came together?
Well,
Don't forget to nervous drink.
I don't have any water mixed. I already drank all mine, so I got to get another bottle. But no, I started with the world building. So with the characters and the city of Flores Park, all that was where I started. I have a universe Bible, and I have an entry for each individual character. And this was before I started. There was some that I wrote as I was writing the story, but like Isom and even like his family and Yaira. I created those before I actually put pen to pad and started writing the actual story. So it was for me, and everybody does it different ways. But that's my way. I like to do the universe Bible entries first and see what happens of that, and then I write the actual story. So that's what, and it's not the easy part to do because you're talking about this is a brand new universe, right? Isom One it was a tall order, man. We had to not only launch his story and have this make sense so someone could read it 5 years down the line, but also launching this entire universe. So we had it was a very difficult thing that we had, and I believe we pulled it off. So I absolutely had to world build before we did anything else. And that was a real fun kind of therapeutic process.
Nice. All right, cool. This was an awesome stream. Had a bunch of fun talking to you. It's always great when I talk with you, which isn't very often, but I know you're a busy man. Everyone, like I said, I have the links in the chat if you want to go check out Rippaverse. There's a link, go support. And where can people find you aside from rippaverse.com?
You can find me on Eric D. July. This is everywhere else. Pretty much that is my handle on Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff. So Eric D. July, if you want to kind of keep up with me. There's also ericdjuly.com. Which we have as well. So again, and this is always fun. This is always fun. I do love chatting with you, and like I say, hopefully we can do it again soon enough.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, guys, that's gonna be it for this stream. I might stream a little bit later. I'm not sure. I gotta go eat some food. I'm starving. But please like, share, do all that fun jazz. Eric, thank you again for coming on, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Peace.